Let's begin. My name is Patty Fagin. I've been a consultant for CSM for about 2 years now, but I have about 40 years of experience working in public, private, secular, Christian schools, independent, etc. Most recently, I served for 12 years as head of an all-girls preschool through grade 12 Catholic school in Princeton, New Jersey. So I'm excited to be here, and hopefully you'll get a few good tidbits that you can use on your efforts for retention. I want to talk about the multiple factors that contribute to effective retention. I do love the title of the webinar because it does allude to the parable of the Good Shepherd, and it really reminds us of God's relentless pursuit of his sheep. I want you to be relentless in assuring that your children and your families don't get lost to begin with. They're precious to you and to your community, and so let's keep them in the fold. Today, let's start by asking Christ to be a part of our efforts. So if you'll join me in prayer. Dear Lord, you have entrusted us with leading your children. Help us to nurture them and their families in right ways so that they may glorify you always. Amen. So as I said, CSM's mission is for Jesus through mission with students. We are fanatical that mission should succinctly and clearly define your reason for existence. Later, we're going to talk about your mission. But to begin with, I wanted to share our mission and how it informs everything that we do at CSM. Our organization actually officially began in 2017. Simon Jeans is our founder and is the father of 4 children who attended several different types of Christian schools. He wanted every Christian family to experience a great education for their children. Unfortunately, he saw Christian schools with lots of terrific people and supporters struggle and even go out of business. So after 14 years as a consultant for independent school management, a secular firm, he decided that God had really called him to stop what he was doing and to take on this mission of helping Christian schools survive and thrive. So now he has an army of like-minded consultants that are devoted to ending the decline of Christian schools. And we want to offer you some hope by offering you believable, doable, and affordable things that you can do to ensure your school does thrive. So with Christ as your source of strength, your mission as your North Star, and your children as the center of your work, we're going to challenge you to take strong steps that will help you succeed. Now, we're all in the business of bringing children to Jesus. We don't want to do anything that hinders them or their families from being a part of his kingdom. But that means we have to be thoughtful, intentional, and planful. Oftentimes our schools are uber focused on recruitment of new children. And understandably, we want to bring as many children to Christ as we possibly can. But our current families, they're the bedrock of our schools. They attract new children. They embody our mission, and they're the key to our financial health. Your current children are already invested in your school's culture, its values, its routines. They know your programs. They've built relationships with staff and with their peers. Replacing a child can be far more expensive, time-consuming, and just in general frustrating than keeping the ones that you have. Think about marketing, admissions, and onboarding costs. So families will stay with you when they feel valued, spiritually supported, and academically secure. If you spend too much time chasing new families, the current ones can feel pretty overlooked and may think that their value to you is really just transactional. In a Christian school, each child is not just an enrollment number. They're a soul that's entrusted to your care. Luke 16:10 reminds us that being faithful with little prepares us for more. So when we're faithful to serving current children, we honor God's provision. The best way to attract new children is to take care of our current ones and their families. So today, let's talk about 5 pillars of effective retention. They are mission alignment, relationships, excellence, communication, and early intervention. Now, I'm just going to warn you, each of these pillars could be a presentation completely on its own. Retention isn't a one and done. It's complex. It requires attention to multiple factors. but each of these pillars reflects some critical factor in retention. So let's talk about how each one of them will not only help you retain current children, but will also help you lay a foundation for attracting more new mission appropriate ones. In order to retain your children, you have to begin by making the most important thing the most important thing. And that is your mission. The mission of a Christian school is its compass. It defines not just what the school's going to do, but why it's doing it. In a world filled with all sorts of educational options, mission is what sets Christian schools apart. It's the intentional pursuit of Christ-centered formation alongside academic excellence. So when we think about your mission, it must keep Christ at the center of all you do. It's got to remain that foundation. It has to guide all of your decisions and all of your priorities. It should unify your community. It should provide a purpose well beyond academics. It should help build trust with your families. And lastly, your mission should inspire your staff's commitment. So how does that work? Well, first and foremost, I want you to look at these 4 questions on the slide and ask yourself, can you answer a resounding yes to all of them? It's critical that your mission statement be pithy, that it cuts to the heart, and it should be short and easy to memorize by all of your community. When we do strategic planning with schools at CSM, we always ask the question of the various constituents, what is your mission? Can you recite it to us? And it's a rare constituency that can do that. It's more the exception than the rule. I will share, however, that at one of our CSM planning consultations, elementary children in unison and with gusto recited that the mission of their school was to joyfully cultivate God's goodness, beauty, and truth. That was a huge wow. But a clear, concise, and well-publicized mission statement allows for that to happen. So make sure that your mission does that. And if it doesn't, revisit it. It should be something that everyone can quote. It should drive every decision that you make at your school, and it should be visible everywhere. Oftentimes we go into schools and we see a mission statement, a purpose statement, a value statement. They're all over the place and they're all different. It's critical that they be the same and that they drive everything, that your mission drives everything that you do. Okay. The second retention pillar that we're going to talk about talks about relationship building. Now, we are really blessed to have a model in this set before us by God's relationship with us. Our question is, can we find ways to mirror that spiritual relationship with our parents and our children? And how do you do that at your school? So as you're here, just take a moment. If you got a piece of paper and a pencil, if you don't, I'm going to give you a second to find one. Can you write down a few ways that you do this? How do you build relationships in your school? And if you've got some cool ways, please feel free to add them to the chat. I know everybody would love to see some of those ideas that you've got, but how are you building relationships in your school? Some of the things that you're jotting down, you're including things like that you pray regularly for your children and your families, that you pray with them. Maybe you're writing down that you are present and visible, that you greet families at drop off and at pickup, that you connect to them in informal and formal ways. Are you communicating consistently and kindly with your community as a whole? In your newsletters, in your emails, does that reflect your mission and your Christian orientation? Do you respond promptly to parents with warmth and professionalism? Do you know your children's stories? Do you know about them? Have you taken time to know their backgrounds, their interests, their challenges? Do you create opportunities for parents and children to get involved in a variety of things? We often say at CSM, children should do everything that they possibly can, that adults shouldn't take the place of what kids can do. So if your children can do something, if they can lead worship, if they can testify, they should get a chance to do that. It shouldn't just be in the purview of adults in your community. As you're building strong relationships with your children and your families, are you modeling Christ's love? Do you foster a culture of partnership? Do parents know that you want them to be involved in their child's education? And I guess lastly, I'd say, are you acting authentically and in a trustworthy manner? What you say, do parents believe that you will do? That's important. And that's what builds strong relationships. If they believe that what the school tells them will happen, then you've made a bond that's really difficult to break. And it remains when things do get difficult. So, to retain current students and families, you also have to build some excitement and belonging all year in a way that celebrates how you're a uniquely Christian school and that you have a uniquely Christian mission. So, one of the things we talk about at CSM is, creating signature events. Are there things that children at your school look forward to every year? Things that your families look forward to every year that, perhaps have a spiritual, emphasis, maybe worship nights, service days, retreats, missions weeks, something that is really exciting to your families. Do you celebrate milestones like scripture memorization, baptism, or servant leadership awards? Invite them in. Make sure that your community can celebrate all the exciting things that are happening in the classroom. Do you invite students to lead chapel, prayer teams, or student worship bands? How are you engaging the students, your children, your families, and sending the message continually? We value you. We want to be in relationship with you. We want to know you well. So as you're thinking about this, and again, if you've got paper, you can write some of these things down or add them in the chat. How are some ways you focus on relationship building at your school in terms of, something that you think might be considered a signature thing, something that is unique to your school, perhaps, that your students and your families really look forward to? And again, please feel free to add those to the chat and share the wealth of ideas and knowledge that you have about how you do this at your school with the other schools that are on this webinar with you. So some things that you can do that augment what maybe you're already doing is maybe at your back to school night for families, you're going to include teachers sharing their heart for teaching and why they feel drawn to your school. Maybe you're going to create some icebreakers and games for families and students together so that they can learn more about each other. And it's not just a sit and get it. Can you offer parent prayer mornings, coffees, prayers, donuts with dad, muffins with mom, where you get together as a community, learn more about each other, get spiritually engaged, really get to know each other? Can you have family chapel days? Invite families to attend and lead weekly or monthly chapel. Can you let parents read scripture, share testimonies, help with the music? Invite parents in to be mystery readers in the classroom or guest helpers. Find ways to engage them in really appropriate ways so they don't do inappropriate things at your school and they are helping build the community. You can also think about providing family inclusive service projects, mission days. At a school I once visited, they had students and families that together went out and served meals at a local shelter. And it was once a month. It was their school's commitment to the community. So it was a very special way of bonding, but also, doing good work in the world and showing that they were living their mission. You can also talk to your parents' association about developing family fun nights or potlucks. That helps bring community together. And think about offering perhaps parent-teacher fellowship events where you can have informal gatherings with no real agenda, just some food and fellowship, and have a small devotional around that. All of these ways send the message that you want your parents, you want your children to be involved in your school, and you value them. Another key piece to relationship building with your families is really providing very effective parent check-ins. You need to be intentional about making personal connections with teachers, children, and families. So I would say to you, it's really important to also honor your parents' time demands. If they come to you with a concern, make a commitment to respond within 24 hours, even if it's just to acknowledge, I saw your email, I got your voicemail. I promise you, I will get back to you shortly. I'll do a little research. I'll get back with you. But just within 24 hours, if you can't give them an answer, at least let them know that they've been heard. Um, Another thing that I would share with you also is to really talk to faculty about how they communicate with parents. Often faculty, when they have an issue or something's come up, they want to send an email that's paragraphs long. Let me tell you everything that Johnny did. Let me tell you what happened. That is not really an appropriate use of email. Email is not a great way to have a conversation or a difficult conversation with a parent. I think the rule of thumb should be if you can't discuss this succinctly and clearly in about 3 sentences, it's time to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Or it's time to pick up the phone and set up a one-to-one in-face meeting so that you can really make sure that all the nuances of your message are heard. There is no emotion in email, and oftentimes what you want to say isn't really being said in the words that you're choosing. They don't get the intonation. So let's take some time to make sure that faculty know short, succinct emails for, just dates, things like that. Problems, conversations that really need to be had should be had in person or over the phone. And I know that's hard, especially for young new faculty. They're a little nervous about parents. They're afraid of them in many situations. So let's give them the tools to understand that it's better that they reach out in person, verbally, and set up meetings, make voicemail contact, because the email is not going to cut it. The other thing that I think is a very effective way to check in with parents involves letting them know that you really know their child. So one thing we recommend is thinking about like a weekly wonderful message. I believe at one school they called it Weekly Wednesday Wonderfuls, in which teachers take the time to leave a voicemail message at the home about something wonderful this child has done. That they've helped another student, that they did an amazing job at a recitation, that they did a perfect presentation of scripture. It's important that parents hear those kinds of exciting, positive things about their child. I remember at one school, a parent said, I got a Weekly Wednesday wonderful call from this teacher. And I just have to share with you that my son has always struggled in school. And 99.9% of the time when I get a call from school, I'm bracing myself because I know it's going to be bad news. And to get this wonderful message from this teacher about how my son had helped someone and that he had shown real Christian, Christ-like behavior, it was amazing. We saved that voicemail. We shared it with grandparents. We shared it with family members. We shared it with our son and said, listen to what your teacher said about you. It's so exciting to hear wonderful news. Now, I will tell you that it's important that when teachers do this, that they keep a checklist, that they make sure that every child gets a weekly Wednesday call. It doesn't have to be every week, but if you've got 25 students, those 25 students should all have gotten a phone call within a month's time, say. I think you can say to faculty, you don't have to do it at night. You can do it during a break at school. You don't have to have a long-winded conversation. If you leave a voicemail, it's actually even more effective, as I mentioned with the young boy. So, think about incorporating that. And it also really builds chips in the bank. So when a difficult conversation is necessary with a student and their family, you've got those positive notes that you've left behind where that parent is saying, I can have this conversation with this teacher because clearly she knows my child. She loves my child. She sees him or her doing really good, kind things. I can trust them that when they come to me with something difficult, I should listen and believe. Another way to do this is to think about student-led conferences. Instead of just having parent conferences where the teacher and the parent gets together, let the child run the conference. Let them talk about what they're doing in school. Let them testify to what an impact the school has had on them, and really reinforcing, this is why my child is at this school. So that's another way. There's a whole session on how you can do child-led conferences, but trust me, they're powerful. Another thing that you can think about considering in terms of really building relationships with families is offering us a yearly overview of the school-wide goals and how the school has progressed towards them. Hopefully your school has a strong strategic plan, which will make that sharing very easy. And if not, I'd encourage you to talk to CSM about doing strategic planning. But there's nothing more powerful than for parents to hear that the school has goals that they're really working towards and that they're actually reporting out how they're doing their progress towards their goals every year to families. Um, Now, some schools do it in writing, some do it virtually, some do it in person. I will tell you that it's pretty powerful in person, but research tells us that families are rarely going out after, dinner time to attend to meetings anymore, especially I think post-COVID. But if you want to get them there in person, connect it to a child event. Have some of the children go over what the goals are. Highlight something else that's going on besides just the goals of the school that bring people in and make them excited about being a part of that annual State of the School report. But again, I think showing parents that, you know, you have goals and you could talk to about how those goals have impacted the experience of children at the school, and that you're investing in the school and the students and in the experience that they're having. So just something else to think about as you move forward in really working on retention. Let folks know what you're doing and how you're doing. Now, I would say that another key piece for retention is to create a culture of feedback. So you need to be able to listen to concerns and show responsiveness to both parents and to children. Show that you listen and that you act. There are surveys that you can give students as young as kindergarten that can really give you some feedback on how things are going with their classroom experience. There are parent surveys that can give you a wealth of information, and both of those actually are available through CSM if you're interested. But they can be very powerful tools. I think another key piece that you got to talk about when you're talking about retention is that you don't want to miss the opportunity to talk to a family that's decided to not return to your school. It's really important to get to the meat of why are they leaving? And it's hard to get that as if an administrator is reaching out or a teacher is reaching out. I encourage you to think about perhaps a board member that knows the families well, that a family will pick up the phone if that board member calls them, to just say, we understand that you're going to be leaving the school. I'd love to hear if you have any questions or concerns about the process, what's prompted you to take your child to a different school. You may get some simple answers like, oh, we have to move or we're relocating, et cetera. But oftentimes parents, what they say and what the real motivation is, isn't divulged. So getting to the nub of that and keeping a record of it will help you move your school in a positive direction. It will help you serve your children better. So, I give the example, if you hear from a parent, well, we're leaving because the fourth grade teacher was terrible this year. Well, that's a data point and you can work with that. But if you hear consistently that people are unhappy with the teachers at your school and they're moving because of that, that's a big red light. It's a warning sign that you need to think about what you're going to do to address that and to let parents know that you are addressing it. So use that opportunity for a student whose family, or for a child when their family is leaving, to pick up the phone, have that one-on-one conversation and find out what really is going on and why are they leaving. It will help you make your school stronger. Now, you may not want to give out long-winded surveys. I get that. Again, we talked about respecting parents' time, but this is a very cool way to find out how you're doing on servicing your families, your children, and the likelihood that they're going to return. And it's called a Net Promoter Score. And basically, you send out an email to all of your families and you ask them just one question. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this school to a friend or a colleague? Let me say that again. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this school to a friend or a colleague? Now, if a family gives a score of a 9 or a 10, they're considered a promoter. If they give a score of 7 or 8, they're kind of passive. They're on the fence. But anything 6 or below is a warning sign. they're detractors. They're not celebrating your school and the community. So you want to make sure that at least 50% or more of your families are promoters. And in a perfect world, you'd have way more than that. So you can quickly find that out, crunch the numbers and see how many more promoters do you have than detractors. That might be a real clue as to maybe it's time to do some, focus groups, a deeper survey, a deeper dive, because if you find that you have more detractors than supporters, you got to dig deep. But this is a good place to start, and it's quick and it's easy and it takes no time whatsoever. Another thing you can do to build relationships with your children and your families is to create mentoring and buddy systems. There's real power in that, and you honor your current children and their families when you ask them to serve as buddies, when you ask them to serve as mentors. They're supporting new families, but they're reinforcing their decision to be at your school all the while they're doing that. So that's a powerful tool. If you can ask a child or a parent to serve as a buddy, it validates your faith in them as well. That they look and say, well, the school thinks that we're doing this right, that we're good representatives of the community. And as they serve as mentors and as ambassadors or as buddies, they really become active contributors to a strong school. So you want to make sure that you are careful how you do this. You want to give some direction on how to do this. It would be good if you decided that you wanted to start something, especially around a parent buddy system, to sit down with current parents and talk about what are the most important things that new families should know, what are the key events that they should attend. Really suss that out with your current families, so that again, they feel like you value what they value and that you've given them the tools to be effective with those new families. So you can create perhaps a booklet, a calendar of what are the key events that are coming up in the school, and ask the ambassadors or the parent buddies, mentors, if they'll make a call to a new family and remind them, oh, this is a big event that's coming up. I use the example when I was speaking once that I came to a new school and there was an event and I showed up and everybody was in pink. And I looked around the room and I was like in navy and thought, what the heck? But no one had bothered to pick up the phone or to send me a note to say, this is a big event at the school. And by the way, everybody, when they come, they all wear pink. Didn't know. And while, it didn't deter me from staying or being a part of that school, it left a bad feeling in my mouth. And I thought, these are the things that parent ambassadors can avoid. They can pick up the phone, they can call, and they can say, here's something that's coming up. It's important. Here's kind of what happens there. Hey, and by the way, if you're feeling a little nervous about being there, don't worry. I'll meet you at the front door. We can go together. That builds great relationships in your school. And again, it's that issue of not only are you bringing in new families, but you're reinforcing with current families, I'm of value. The school thinks that what I'm doing is important. And I've made a good choice for my child to be at this school. So, in addition, you can also look at buddy systems for students. Hopefully you can take children that have been at your school for a while, pair them with new children that are coming in. Talk about, how can you pair them? Do they like the same extracurriculars? Are they interested in the same type of academic challenges? Get them together and do the same thing with those children. Ask those children that are currently at your school to make a concerted effort to make those new students feel comfortable, for them to understand what are the big things at the school, how do we act when we're at this school, what are the things that we do because we are of this school. It really empowers those current children. Again, you value what I value, but it also brings new students in feeling like, wow, I've already got a friend. I've got somebody who really cares about me. So again, just some ideas around, ways that you can build those relationships that you may not have thought of, or maybe you have, but you could shore them up a little bit more and make them a little bit more a part of the fabric of what your school's doing. Okay, the third pillar is the relentless pursuit of academic and spiritual excellence. If you're going to retain students, you have to maintain high academic standards with a biblical worldview around all your subjects. You have to ensure that you have quality, mission-aligned teachers, and you have to have lots of good spiritual growth opportunities. It's just critical. So excellence in instruction gives each student the opportunity to discover and refine the ways that they're uniquely gifted by God. Being a Christ-centered school does not preclude you from being academically excellent. Our children are called to be salt and light in all spheres: business, science, arts, medicine, education. They need to be able to be good at what they do. So if we want to retain our children, we have to equip them with the knowledge and the skills and the confidence to lead faithfully and competently wherever God calls them. I want you to know that schools that compromise on instructional quality risk losing children, even if their spiritual mission is awesome. Strong, mission-aligned teachers are critical to our schools. A Christian school teacher leads the charge on student retention. Let me say that again. A Christian school teacher leads the charge on retention. So as you look at your faculty in your schools and your teachers, what are the qualities that they display? Are they spiritually mature and Christ-like in character? Are they professionally excellent in instruction, experts in their subject, student-focused, engaging, providing interactive opportunities for learning? Do they integrate faith in the learning? Do they build solid relationships with their children? Are they committed to the mission of the school? Are they reflective and humble? This is a key piece of retention. And hopefully, as you're listening to me talk about these qualities of great Christian school teachers, you're saying, yes, that's what my teachers are like. But the reality is, many teachers in Christian schools possess some of these qualities, but not all of them. And it's important as leaders in Christian schools that we work towards making all of our teachers competent in all of these areas. So I encourage you to kind of think about, who are the teachers in your school that most embody the 6 things that I just talked about? Can you use them to help bring other teachers along? Can you talk with teachers about the critical importance of these factors and ensure that they understand that all of these are important in the life of the children that they work with, and that they make a difference in terms of whether children stay or leave your school? If you want to hold on to children, you have to offer diverse extracurriculars. You know, parents love a great education. They want teachers that love their students. They want quality teachers, but they also want their children to have opportunities outside of school. So just make sure that those extracurriculars are mission aligned, that they're diverse, that they're distinctive, that they're really working on, at the heart of it, building Christian character, building community, encouraging leadership. And I also think I'd say that they should give your school some bragging rights. They should be a source of pride, something that kids in the outside world know about the students at your school. Say, oh yeah, over there, they're amazing at robotics, or over there, they have the best, poetry renditions anywhere. They are in competitions throughout the community. Think about, what is it that your school can offer that is distinctive, answers what students are looking for, children are looking for in order to expand beyond the classroom, and that plays to their gifts, that allows them to be successful in ways that maybe they can't be in the classroom, but can be outside the classroom. Again, if you're interested in excellence in Christian schools, then you got to integrate a clear biblical worldview. You have to. It's what sets you apart. It's your identifier. And in order to do that, there's work. You've got to train your teachers, and they've got to be trained on an ongoing basis. You have to embed scripture and biblical truth into every subject. And you have to create a culture of Christian thinking. You're not there, your teachers are not there to tell children how to think. You're not teaching them what to think, but how to think. That's a better way to say it. And you want them to have that biblical worldview as a part of how they're making the decisions about what they think. You want them to be able to analyze media, culture, news from a scripture basis. So, you're going to have a school that focuses on that. And oftentimes, when there's turnover in Christian schools, this is hard because it does take some time to teach a teacher how to incorporate this into her curriculum and into her daily work. You've got to use curriculum mapping intentionally so that you can integrate biblical truths within learning objectives. You have to be able to teach kids not to just assess content knowledge, but they have to be able to reason and respond biblically. Like, why do we believe this? What's our basis? And, just being able to use rubrics that include worldview thinking, ethical reasoning, and faith integration. So important. And again, these are not things that are one and done. They're an ongoing effort on the part of the school to educate teachers on how to do this. You need to build a strong school culture. If you're in pursuit of spiritual excellence, promote that clear Christ-centered mission. Ensure that there's consistency and discipline and values and expectations. And again, embedded within the mission of your school. You have to be able to make prayer and discipleship intentional. It's got to be visible. It's got to be in every classroom every day. You've got to show that spiritual growth is celebrated just as much or more than academic success. The fourth pillar is communication. I mean, most of you are probably doing a very good job on this. You've got newsletters, you've got emails that go out. But I think it's really important to remember that you're not just passing on facts, but you're passing on how is what you're doing connected to the mission and connected to really growing the children in your school to be the embodiment of your mission. So don't ever just post something and say, we're doing this. Say why we're doing this. We didn't just have a picture of kids, doing a service project somewhere without tying it back to why are we doing this? What in our mission makes this important? So I think it's really critical that we think about how we tie our messaging to our mission. You want to make sure that you're always taking an opportunity to demonstrate your academic and spiritual excellence. Celebrate that. Talk about what your children are doing. And, again, make sure that your parents are well aware of all of these so they can be communicating that out in the world. Just as you've communicated to them, how do they communicate with others? Another key piece is knowing that testimony is just so powerful. And anytime that you can take the opportunity to have your parents, your children, your faculty, your administration speak to the power of what you're doing at your school, you should take advantage of it. Share their testimonies. Talk about how their lives have been transformed by being a part of your school. There is nothing more powerful than that. You also, in terms of communication, have to think about the flip side of the coin. Communicating with happy current parents and new families, oh, that's fun. But communicating with unhappy children or parents, not so much. So this is where we get the opportunity to talk about not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Difficulties are going to arise and you're going to have to handle them. And how you do that may make the difference between whether a child or a family stays or leaves your school. So I think it's really important that you show genuine care and patience, especially with struggling children or with difficult parents. That you, again, going back to what I said earlier, offer rapid response when a parent has an academic or a social or a spiritual concern. Hop on that. Don't delay it. Address conflicts, but do it privately and honestly with a bit of a redemptiveness to it so that people feel like they have a chance to become new again. On the nitty-gritty side of this conversation, I would say you need to really watch for early signs of a drop-off in engagement of a child or his parents, of their drop-off in attendance, perhaps at things that they normally attended, or you're hearing things that say that they're dissatisfied. You've really got to watch for that. And again, your teachers are great people to do that for you. They overhear what students are saying in their classroom. They overhear conversations in the carpool pickup line. They need to be tuned in and let people know if they're hearing that a family is unhappy or feeling like their needs are not being met or that their concerns are not being addressed. It's very, very important. Another piece is that, given the economy and everything else, oftentimes parents are struggling financially and they may not share that with you. And so it's important that when we talk to parents about coming back to the school and they say, well, we just can't do this, or it's a struggle for us financially, that we have a way of talking with them and helping them stay in our schools. Um, you know, have those supportive conversations and just really be there for them and empathize with how difficult it is to make this decision to keep your child in a Christian school when the public school down the street is free. But if they see the value and they see your willingness to work with them, they're going to make that effort. Just some more nitty gritty things. Make re-enrollment really easy. Don't make it be difficult. Some schools have continuous enrollment. That helps a lot. Don't let parents have to think about this decision every year. Like, just make it seamless. And always reminding them of the impact that the school is making on their child. Pay really special attention to transition points. Those are critical danger zones where you can lose children. So have step-up days, have private, preview nights, parent info sessions, personal invitations to the next year experience. You want to make sure that you're engaging, and you're engaging early, because sometimes these decisions are made far sooner than you think. Is a child going to go to the high school? You might think, well, I need to have that conversation in 8th grade. No, you don't. You need to probably have it in 6th, talking about the power of the high school program that you have, so that as they're forming where they're going to go with their child for high school, your school is first on their list. Another thing around the nitty gritty of student retention is that you need to make a calendar, and you need to talk about on that calendar, what are the things that are specifically targeting retention. If you don't document it, you won't do it. And so I think it's really incumbent upon our schools to take the time to say, in every month of the school year, what are the things we're doing that are encouraging our families to stay at our school, to renew their, conviction that this is the right place for their child, put it in the calendar, and then do it. The other thing is, we measure what we value, and we value what we measure. So if your retention rate is 95%, that's awesome. But if it's lower than that, I think you really need to say to yourself, okay, what's going on? And how can we move that closer to 95%, closer to 90%, wherever you are? Let's move it up. Get those parent satisfaction scores out and find out what's going on. See how engaged your families are. Are they showing up at your events and your activities? And if not, find out why not. Doesn't take much to have a little focus group or put out a short survey to find out. Maybe you're meeting at the wrong time. Maybe you're not offering what they want. So check that out. And again, as I said before, find out why students are not returning and track them diligently. You will see patterns, and those are important, again, signs for you that something needs to happen that's not currently happening. So again, I hope that you've learned not only why retention matters, but how you can ensure that your sheep stay in the fold. Strong retention, it makes recruitment a walk in the park. Happy families, happy children, they're Pied Pipers. They keep your community strong, they minimize your financial worries, and they enliven your mission. So I'd like to end as we began. As Christian schools, we know and believe that every child and family we retain is a long-term kingdom investment. Hopefully today's webinar will help you shepherd the hearts of your children and families and keep them in the fold. If you are in search of more resources to not only help your school survive but thrive, I really encourage you to join CSM. We offer an abundance of resources and services. Current memberships are $9.67 a month. I don't know how we got that number, but it will be money so well spent in helping your school thrive. So please consider that. There are many free resources on our website, but the membership opens so many doors for you. And in addition, we're also in the book writing business, and we've got some great books that will help you as well. So please feel free to check those out on the website as well.